Today, we're diving into something really fascinating happening with Taiwan's economy. It's a story about a surprising economic boom for sure. But what's really wild is how a hot job market might be unintentionally solving a social issue that has stressed out families for decades.
So where does this all begin? Well, it starts with a major prediction made just a few years back about Taiwan's future. And honestly, it painted a pretty worrying picture for the workforce. But were they right? As you're about to see, reality took a completely different path.
To really get how surprising today's situation is, we have to rewind the clock to 2017. Taiwan's National Development Council put out this big report on the future of the labor force, and the outlook, well, let's just say it was not good.
And here it is, the core of that prediction. The experts looked at the demographics, right? Especially an aging population. And they basically said, after 2022, the number of people working is going to peak and then start to shrink. And that's a huge warning sign for any economy.
Just so we're all on the same page, this labor force participation rate is a super important health check for an economy. If it goes down, it means fewer people are working or even looking for work, and that can lead to shortages and really slow things down. So you can see why this forecast was a pretty big deal.
But here's the twist. That grim forecast of a shrinking workforce, it just never happened. In fact, what actually occurred was the complete opposite. So let's look at the real numbers and see how reality just completely veered off script.
Okay, take a look at this. 2022 was supposed to be the peak, right? The top of the mountain before everything started to go downhill. Instead, the rate went up. Then it grew again in 2023, and again in 2024. And the estimate for 2025 shows it's going to keep growing. The decline they predicted never even showed up to the party.
So, this is really the heart of the story, isn't it? On one side, you have this logical, data-driven prediction based on an aging population. And on the other, you have the surprising reality, a workforce that's not just holding on, but actually growing. The big question is, why? What was fueling all this?
Well, it wasn't just that more people wanted to work, they were actually finding jobs. At the same time all this was happening, the unemployment rate was falling, and it's been falling steadily since 2021. When you have more people joining the workforce and lower unemployment, that points to one thing, a red-hot job market.
And what was the engine behind that incredible job market? Just powerful economic growth. I mean, look at this number, a more than 26% year-over-year jump in foreign trade. That's massive. It shows an economy that's basically firing on all cylinders, creating opportunities and just pulling more and more people into jobs.
Now, here's where these big, abstract economic numbers start to have a fascinating ripple effect, one that touches on one of the most stressful parts of life for so many families in Taiwan, and that's the university pressure cooker.
This really leads us to a crucial question. For decades, society in Taiwan has been almost defined by this intense, overwhelming pressure on kids to get into a top university. So what happens to all that pressure when a booming economy comes in and starts changing the rules of the game? The answer, it seems, is that the pressure is actually easing up. That intense life-or-death competition for a few spots at elite universities is finally starting to cool off. And why? Because that old belief, the one that says only a top degree can guarantee a good career, well, it's just not the only path to success anymore.
So how in the world does a strong economy manage to do what decades of educational reforms have struggled with? Let's break down this kind of economic chain reaction.
It actually works in a pretty straightforward way. First, you get the economic boom, which creates a whole range of good quality jobs, and not just for the graduates from a few elite schools. This means that suddenly there are all these different pathways to a successful career. And when that happens, the intense must-win pressure to get into that one specific top university starts to fade away.
So, the real takeaway here is pretty mind-blowing. It seems like a vibrant job market has done more to solve this university pressure problem than all the different educational reforms that have been tried since 1994. It wasn't some new government policy that made the difference. It was simply the power of a healthy economy creating more opportunities for everyone.
And that kind of leaves us with a final, provocative thought to chew on. If creating widespread opportunity is the most effective way to ease academic pressure, then maybe the best educational policy is actually a strong economic policy. What do you think?